This is Self Starter. Well, hello there. Welcome to Self Starter. This is a podcast that highlights the small business owners, the self-employed and freelancers who have taken the plunge to create their own desirable lifestyle. My name is Andy Dowling. I'm also the host of the Andy Social Podcast. You can see me play bass in the Australian metal band Lord, and I'm also a dispute resolution specialist. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook by searching at Andy Dowling, or you can go over to selfstarter.com.au where you can learn more about yours truly, as well as anything and everything to do with the self-employment world. This episode is with Trina Collins, who is the owner of Anchors Away Art Studio, which is a full functioning artist studio located in the heart of Wollongong. And it doesn't only cater as a space for artists to experiment in learning, but it also facilitates a number of workshops, provides art services such as screen printing, digital design, murals, and heaps of other stuff. And it also has its own art supply shop set up to ensure that artists in the area are fully equipped to produce their own work. Trina's got a long history as a critically acclaimed artist working under the name Poncho Army, and at one point was an artist in residence for the Wollongong City Art Gallery. And it was during this time where Trina made the decision to branch out and start her own business. In the past, she'd been working in a number of traditional jobs, and it got to a point where she really wanted to see whether she could continue to earn a living as an artist and not have to go back to a job that could potentially be unfulfilling. Now, several years on, the art studio has grown at its own pace and it's captured a loyal following through word of mouth and Trina's passion for art. And the incremental and organic approach of building the business really feeds into that grassroots, authentic artist lifestyle that complements the whole purpose of Anchors Away. It is a slow burn, but it's a sustainable slow burn, which means that Trina gets to do what she loves every day and best of all, make some money from it. As always, you can check out everything that we discuss in this episode in the show notes over at selfstarter.com.au, including my key takeaways, which will come later on. But for now, please enjoy this really, really cool chat with Trina Collins of Anchors Away Art Studio.
I'm Trina Collins and I run Anchors Away Art Studio in Wollongong. So Anchors Away Art Studio, we teach workshops for kids, teens and adults. I paint murals, so I've travelled all around Australia painting murals, mostly for different councils, and I do screen printing and graphic design as well.
I was looking on your website and when you first contacted me and I was looking through all the information, what I first saw and the impression I got was that it was just like an art supply shop and that was about it. And then when I dug deeper, I thought, oh, geez, there's like a whole bunch of different things that fall under the umbrella of the name of the business.
Yeah, there sure is. I guess it's Wollongong's sort of a hard place to make a living off doing art. So I found that having multiple different skills, like, you know, there isn't always going to be mural work available. So, yeah, when those jobs come along, that's awesome. But usually when I've got a bit of a lull in that world, I can take on some graphic design work or I can teach a few more workshops, just add them to the curriculum for that term. So, yeah, I've always got something on the go. And, yeah, just I can pick and choose sometimes when you get those odd periods where it's raining and you sort of getting all the work coming in, I can go, well, which ones do I really want to work on? So that's a bit of a luxury at those times.
I was going to say, there's pros and cons to having that sort of freelance type of lifestyle.
Yeah, there definitely is pros and cons to it. It's sort of a bit of a week to week or month to month kind of going, all right, I've got nothing on coming up in the next month, and you start to get a bit worried. But yeah, like you'll think that, and then something will come through like that afternoon, a big job, and it's like, okay, cool, that'll keep me going for the next week or so. And yeah, just sort of has rolled on like that for the past 5 years now.
So before the business itself got up and running, what were you doing beforehand? Because I know that you've got a bit of history when it comes to your art personally, but what were you doing beforehand? And I guess that sort of moment where you decided to create this brand, create this business.
Well, the year before I had Anchors Away Art Studio, I was the artist in residence at Wollongong City Gallery. So with that, I they give you a free studio space for 12 months to make a series of work that you then have an exhibition, a 3-month exhibition at the City Gallery for. So I'd probably say this, like, creatively was the best year of my life. You didn't have to stress about having to pay rent on a studio. They give you a small stipend for materials, like it's quite small, but it definitely helps with purchasing materials to get started. And yeah, it's just sort of that kind of no stress. You could be creative and immerse yourself and not have to run off and go to work later in the afternoon. You could just like go, all right, I'm getting into the zone and nothing has to take me out of that zone, that was, you know, just such a amazing feeling to be able to have. About 6 months into that, I was just like, this is going to end. Like, this is going to end real soon. What am I going to do? And because the type of work I do, like screen printing and spray painting, I didn't sort of fit into going to the shared studio spaces. They're usually quite small, open plan. People don't want spray paint, dust and fumes in their spaces. So I was like, I need to get a warehouse, and how can I afford to do that? And that's when I started like teaching the workshops as part of the residency and going, no one's teaching teenagers. And there was absolutely no one who was doing teenage art workshops at the time on an ongoing basis, sort of in the heart of the Wollongong area. So I thought, there's a market there. Let's see what I can do.
So the workshops because that was one of the questions I was going to have, is what actually came first when it comes to this business. So, and I thought maybe the supply aspect, the art supply part would have come first, but it was actually the workshops in a different location that sort of kicked you into that next chapter.
Yeah, for sure. Like the art supply thing was actually just one of those things where I had to get supplies in for the workshops, and to sort of get them wholesale, you had to be a retail business, and there wasn't really any retailers in my area that stocked the products that I wanted. So I thought, maybe like I'll just have this little niche business, and it still is pretty niche, but we have lots of different spray paint brands and screen printing supplies, so people can come in and we've got a variety rather than maybe going to the one art shop that might be, you know, in the 200-kilometre radius around the Illawarra and going, they've only got that one brand. So, yeah, we don't have heaps of other art supplies. It's really just spray paint and screen printing supplies. But, yeah, those people who are into us know where to come. So word just sort of gets around naturally about the place.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, I guess just from what you said, it's, you know, you needed these materials yourself, and then you've sort of realized that, well, you know, while I'm doing it, I may as well use this as a part of my business and sell them to other people. And because it's kind of niche as well, it's good in a way because it's a lot more focused. You just don't have this general art supply shop that has all sorts of different things and people get lost in the noise. It's pretty point on with exactly what you're selling. So in some ways it can appeal to people a lot easier because there's no, it's just clear exactly what you're offering.
Exactly. And, you know, if I get called up and someone wants me to come paint a mural, I've, you know, got every colour under the sun here in the shop, so I can just like pull the colours off the shop and go, sweet, load them in the van and go and paint the mural. I don't have to order online and then wait for the courier to come because they can't just ship them with Australia Post because spray paint. So yeah, sometimes you could be waiting a couple of weeks before the paint arrived, and yeah, having the shop and everything here, it's very handy.
And are you, because you mentioned the warehouse and you also mentioned the shop, is it on the one location, or do you have two separate locations that you run the business out of?
No, it's the one location. I still refer to it as a warehouse because the first premises was a real open plan warehouse with a big roller door, double height, and I converted the small office into the shop at the old space. And the new space that I'm in, it's a lot more functional. So there is a warehouse part out the back, and then there's a big enclosed air-conditioned space where we run sort of the sit-down workshops, and I've got the screen printing gear. And then at the front of that, it sort of does a U-turn into the shop. So, yeah, everything's got its own place here, but it's heaps easier to keep clean. We've got a backyard, which we've got big spray paint walls out, so students can go and practice out in the backyard, different techniques and stuff as part of the workshops.
Definitely helps having it in a centralized location as well, because I did a little bit of Googling on the addresses to see exactly where it was. Excellent. And I recognized Church Street anyway, and I thought, that's smack bang
it's a popular street.
And and smack bang in the middle of Wollongong, so it's easy to get to, and obviously from a familiar point of view, it'd be very easy access for most people in that area to come and find you.
Yeah, we are like one of sort of those battle axe blocks where we're the warehouse out the back, where there's like another little house that's been converted to offices in the front. So we're sort of, just down the driveway and out the back. So we're kind of hidden, but on a main road. So it's kind of best of both worlds, I guess.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Going back to when you're sort of going through that transition of, I'm going to start running some workshops out of the existing space where you had this 12-month opportunity. What were some of the challenges that you had taking that step out of that 12-month contract that you had, and then sort of going into the big, dark, scary world of oh, geez, I've got to create something or keep this going in a way that works for me? What were some of those challenges that you had?
There were so many challenges. I don't even know where to start. I remember that the first year of running Anchors Away, I went from the best year of my life to possibly the worst year of my life. I saw like there was a market for what I wanted to do, but it's really hard to get word out when you haven't got money to have a whole marketing campaign and get the word out there. Like I previously, before doing the residency, I worked for Fairfax for almost 10 years. So I know about marketing and advertising and what it can do, but we were sort of at a point, even with newspapers, that no one was really reading it. And that's how my whole team got made redundant at Fairfax, was because they had to cut staff because, they weren't making the money. So it's kind of like, paying $600 to put a tiny little ad in a newspaper no one's reading anymore. Just that was a huge amount of money for a sole trader business who's coming off the back of just making artwork for a year. It was all word of mouth. And like at first I didn't want to teach little kids. I wanted to teach teenagers and adults, but I was getting a few calls, especially from my friends who had like 5-year-olds around the time saying, oh, would you teach my kid? And so I was running workshops, I think, for almost the first year for like 2 kids in an age group that I really wasn't overly keen on. It's sort of doing more craft stuff when they're 5.
Yeah.
I was like, what am I doing? This isn't even covering the materials each term. But I sort of was like, I've got to get the word out there. Like, these kids go to school and tell their friends that, hey, I'm doing this art class and it's awesome, then I might get a few more students next term. And that's sort of what it was doing. And I was getting like a few more each term. But I remember that first year, I was just counting down the months until my lease was up. I only signed a 1-year lease the first year, just to see how it would all pan out. And I was just like, okay, I've got like 6 months left, I've got 5 months left. And then sort of at the 3-month point where you had to make the decision of if you're going to like renew your lease, things started to pick up. So it sort of took that 9 months, and then word got out and I was starting to break even, not lose money. And I was like, okay, all right, I'll give this another year. And yeah.
It was like a different type of countdown, wasn't it, compared to that first 12-month opportunity that you had working on your own stuff and going, God, I've only got 6 months left. And then going into that next period, it's like, I'm counting it down now. And so it's a different type of pressure coming from a different area. But I mean, what was, before things started to pick up in that sort of that last, 3 months, what was in the back of your head as far as, when you're going through that countdown of I've only got, luckily I've only got 6 months left of my lease. Were you thinking, I'm just going to go back and do something a little bit more mundane and boring? Did you have like a game plan of like you're just going to pivot and go elsewhere?
I had like every thought go through my head of maybe I can just go back and work at Coles like I did when I was a teenager. It was just sort of thinking of I will just do any job so I don't have this stress. Like there was a point where it's so stressful and a point where you feel like you might lose your house and things like that. And it's like, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. But yeah, I think I'm really glad that I didn't throw in the towel. But I never got myself into debt either. I never got out a business loan. And I think if I initially did get a business loan and had to pay that back with that first year of just having to pay the rent on the premises and the public liability and the bills and all of the insurances and everything, I think I would have definitely had to throw in the towel if I had got out a business loan on top of it. But I'm very glad I involved the business as the money came in.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, that's a really interesting point because, I mean, when you talk, well, it depends on who you talk to and whether they're a glass half full or half empty type of personality. But, there's a lot of people out there that have a pessimistic look on people that go out there and create their own business or are self-employed, because they talk about the statistics of so many people that don't get past their first year or two and then go back to, your traditional employment. And probably a lot of it is exactly what you said. People go in too hard too quickly. They take on too much debt and the pressure and the responsibilities are so high when usually in those first few years, you're not really expecting a great deal of return. It's a slow burn. So for you to sort of, make that decision, whether it was conscious or not at the time, where you just sort of went, I'm going to just ease into this and take on small responsibilities as far as, your costs and keeping your overheads low. I mean, that's in hindsight now, as you said, it's saved you.
Yeah, no, it was definitely thought out. It was definitely a plan. There was things like screen printing, for instance, where it was something that I knew I could probably make money from, but there's so much equipment involved and set up, especially when you're teaching it to a group of people. And so there was a lot of expense with teaching screen printing from the get-go. And I was like, all right, I'm not going to invest in getting the equipment to teach on a workshop level until I can start getting money in from other things. And that was the same as with the art supplies as well. It was really just bare bones. And then that sort of grew, the art supply side of things, would take on another brand of spray paint and would add in more of the screen printing supplies as the business evolved. And we could have sort of afford to do a bigger order each time. And
it's a very, very smart way of approaching it because, a lot of people, it's a patience game, isn't it? Because a lot of people want to get the acknowledgement and the response from the community and from customers, and be able to show the success that you're doing, especially when you've got these grand plans and these dreams of what you want to do and where you see yourself, and people want these things really quickly. So for you
definitely.
Yeah, for you to understand and then sort of go, well, as I get money in, then I will build towards, upgrading or extending or adding to what I'm doing, whether it be stock or equipment or, your premises and all these different things. So it can be tough at times because things might not seem to be moving as quickly as you'd like, but, it's a very smart and safe way of approaching it.
Yeah, definitely. I think if I ran out and got like $100,000 loan or something at the start to buy all the equipment that I wanted to and get a shop filled with art supplies, I think, I don't know where I'd be today. I don't think the business would have survived so early on. Yeah. I think the organic approach, especially for art, is really beneficial all my customers, I wouldn't say all, but I'm probably going to say around 90% at least, come here through word of mouth. They know someone who's come here and recommended it, either for workshop, screen printing, for my mural painting or artworks, or the art supplies. Everyone comes in and is like, oh, blah, blah sent me. They recommended you. They've said your workshops are the best. The kids absolutely love them. And you can't beat that. Like, no paying for a $1,000 ad in a little magazine or something is going to give you that credential of what someone who's actually been here can give you, I think.
Especially where now people are getting attacked left, right and centre with all sorts of noise and demands, whether it be on their phones or on, their computers or on TV, or just signs and out and about, and the amount of information that we're taking in consciously and unconsciously. For somebody to be able to convince you that something's a good idea, it can be really tough. So, to have somebody
we've learned how to just zone ads out on the television. We've learned how to do it. If ads pop up on the website, you just scroll past them. Like, you don't ever really look at them. You just go, oh, I know that's an ad. And if, you're reading a story, to say on one of the newspaper websites, you probably have scrolled past 3 or 4 ads. You get to the end and someone asks you, what ads did you scroll past? You probably wouldn't be able to remember one of them.
No way at all. But I mean, I guess that's a great thing. And I think I think some people are switched on and understand it, but I think there's still a lot of people, especially people that have run their own businesses for quite a number of years, going into the decades, where that was just the way that you would advertise and get your name out there. And it used to work really well. And I think now it's...
Because everyone read the newspaper.
That's right.
It was such a community thing to do. And not so much anymore.
Oh, that's right. And I think now there's a trust factor as well that comes into play, where if you've got somebody that's close to you, that you've got a relationship with, whether it be friend, family, or someone that you work with, and they're talking about something that they can vouch for, then that cuts through the noise, because you're listening to that person, you're more attentive to the information that they're giving, and there's a reassurance there that, especially when you're about to spend some money, that there's a little bit more transparency or understanding of what you're spending money on. So the word of mouth thing is, I mean, it's always talked about and everyone refers to it, but it's something that is still very underrated in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, people will always trust the advice that the community gives them, their close friend, their family, over something that they read, in a magazine or see an ad on the television. Yeah,
definitely.
The small community is, if you can make a community around your business or become part of a community. We've definitely got other businesses that we deal with closely. Like, for instance, I print all the merchandise for Tumbleweed, one of the bands up here who have been running for years, and they know other bands who they send to me, and it sort of becomes this little network of people who know each other. And I've done bags for the retro shop that's recently opened in the past year up here and stuff, and I shop there because I love retro furniture, and Dan will get me to print her bags and stuff for her here, and it's sort of like this kind of trading on some element. Sometimes, there might be a bit of money involved, but sometimes we're like, I really wanted that lamp in your shop anyway. I'll do the next 50 bags as a freebie for this, or a swap, and it's nice having that sort of environment, that community around you.
Definitely. And if you've got the connection with people around you, especially like-minded people, then, the longevity of your business is there because, you've got that backing and that support where people want to help you succeed, and vice versa for them as well. So it's something that, if you're not a social creature, it can be quite difficult, but there's definitely a lot of value in just being open and communicating with the people that are close to you, your neighbors, so to speak.
Definitely. I am 100% an introvert, and so marketing and putting my word out in the public, it's really hard for me to do. I don't really like talking about business. If I go Like we played at Yours and Ours on the weekend. My band was playing there. And I could have gone up to all the other bands backstage and was like, hey, if you need T-shirts screen printed, I can do them for you. But I can't do that. I'm not that person at all. Like, I'm like, hey, good show. That was sweet. Like,
So how would you combat
I can't
that?
push my business.
How would you get around? How would you combat that? Like, how would you get? Like, what do you do to get around that? Is that something more where you do it through
have
Instagram?
extrovert friends who will talk me up for me.
Oh, that's the way to go. Absolutely. I mean, it's a way around it, and surrounding yourself with different personalities who can vouch for you, and it goes back to that word of mouth, doesn't it?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, as an introvert, I heavily rely on my extrovert friends to, get the word of mouth out there.
I love it. I love it. So you're a few years in and seem to be doing all sorts of things and adding to the repertoire of services and things that you supply for people that, find an interest and have an interest in a part of that field. What are the current challenges that you have now? I mean, what's one of the things that you're struggling with? Is there anything from a growth point of view or anything that you that's changed recently that you're sort of going, oh, this is a current challenge and it's different to what I would have had to experience earlier in that piece?
Definitely, new challenges arise. Generally, kind of each couple of years, it's like, oh, now that's happening. I guess, like at the moment, I said originally there wasn't sort of anyone catering workshops to teenagers. There's heaps of places now that do them, and quite like large establishments. I won't say their names. Who I think have probably looked at what I've been doing here and going, oh, she's making a living from it. Maybe we can, change our age. Like they might have just taught adults before and now they're doing teenagers, or some of the ones that just done like little kids and now going, oh, maybe we could do teenagers and adults. We've got more competition, more people going, oh, maybe I could run workshops as well. So just that on general, there's more people doing, I guess, what I'm trying to do here, which, you kind of expect. It's kind of like Wollongong started with one little cocktail bar, the Otis Bar, a few years ago. I think now we've got about 50, it's pretty insane. Yeah. And it's the same with the spray paint and stuff like that. There weren't many shops that had them before, and now, like Officeworks, as just an example, has really expanded on their art supplies. And, so you can get a certain brand of spray paint there that we stock now, and they'll deliver and they'll beat any price by 5%. It's really what Bunnings done to the hardware man. And so the art shops are starting to get that now with the big box shops who can order so much product you will never be able to beat their price. And then they'll also undercut whatever you put on it to the customers. So, you sort of got to keep being flexible. And I think because I can do the graphic design and the screen printing and all this, I definitely do not rely on shop sales. There's no way I could run a business just relying on the shop sales here.
Yeah, and I think that goes back to what you said right at the start, where having a number of different things that you're involved with and that you offer keeps you going, keeps it moving, because you can lean on each one as things increase with workload and opportunities, and when other things dry up or slow down, then you can pivot and move. But you don't have to actually give anything up either.
Yeah, it definitely keeps it interesting as well. It's like what I'm doing today or tomorrow is probably going to be vastly different to what I'm going to be working on next week. So it's always nice. Like I teach drums as well, so I've got a soundproof music room here. I teach a drum group each week and a couple of students and stuff. So that's another thing that I do. And there's always something on the go, something different, and
you just have to keep increasing your skill,
all creative,
set. Keep finding new things to get good at, and then just monetize and teach more people.
Well, drums is where it all started. I was originally a drummer before any of the other creative stuff. So I've been drumming now for 25 years. So, yeah.
Really good. And now, I mean, I think, looking online and looking at your website, and you've got all your social media pages. I think from what I can see, social media is important to you to a degree, and obviously gets you connected with people. And I notice, like, even just little things, like when you look at your opening hours on your website, it's Monday to Friday, but then you talk about the flexibility of weekends, and then directing people to your Instagram page, and then you'll just, as week on week, updating people as they go. Have you found that having sort of probably Instagram more so than Facebook, but both of them combined, do you find that there's been benefit to you as far as getting word out there, getting information out there to people?
Yeah, for sure. Like with my job, because I run this place just by myself, if I get, like last week I was teaching a full day workshop at Performing Arts High up here for a Year 9 class doing a mural. So like what the school can afford to pay me, I'd probably have to sell 1,000 cans of spray paint in the shop that day to sort of even come close to that. And like I could sit in here some days and not get a single customer. So I have to be able to close the shop when jobs like that come up. And most of my customers now have learnt, look on Instagram or send me a text before they come in just to make sure that I'm here. But yeah, like I definitely try and open the shop as many days as I can, usually 6 days a week.
Well, I mean, it's really good having, I guess, using Instagram in that way because of the inconsistent nature, and inconsistent is not the right word, but the inconsistent nature of what you do, and the changes of work coming in, and you having to have that flexibility of getting out there and doing other stuff and prioritizing things for people to be able to understand that, and then they can follow you, on social media where they can get updates, and then obviously you've got contact details there as well. Would you ever think, you might not be in the position now, would you ever think of having somebody that comes in and basically sits around all day when you're off doing your bigger jobs, that can just keep the place open for you?
At this point, I wouldn't be able to afford it to have someone just to sit in here and sell art supplies. Like we usually get a couple of customers a day, but over a 10-hour day, it's not going to cover the cost. But yeah, like also, as I said, like I'm an introvert, I like to put my head down, get into, like I'm doing artwork at the moment to go in the City Gallery exhibition that's coming up. If I had someone in the shop, you just sort of feel like you got to talk to them because someone's in your space. And I'm for someone who likes to zone out, like I'm watching Friday Night Lights while I'm painting. It's and I don't want to have to manage people and wages, and you sort of, once you become a boss, I think you lose a lot of the creative aspects. Like I don't want to be the art director. I want to be the artist, the designer, the person who's making the thing, not telling people what to do and how to do it.
And I think that's a good thing. I mean, having the awareness as well, because I think some people get themselves into a hole really quickly because they don't understand where their comfort is or where their strengths are as well. And for you to understand that, and if you can create, like you have, this business that is sustainable and works with the infrequency or the inconsistency of different things coming in, and you having to sort of sometimes shut up shop or change your hours, if that works, then more power to you. And I guess it's only when it gets to a point where things become a challenge for you that you might have to sort of look at other alternatives. But if it works, then absolutely. Yeah,
I'm definitely not someone who is trying to make a business that's going to take over the world or even take over the Illawarra. That's definitely not my plan. And I know a lot of people go in with businesses and say, we want to have, make this business successful in the first year, and in 3 years we're going to have 5 locations and all of this. I have no desire to do any of that. I just want to make a living for myself and provide a great quality service, whether it's painting a mural or selling you some screen printing inks. That's all I want to do, and just be able to live comfortably doing that. I don't have to make a massive name for myself. I don't need Anchors Way Art Studio to become Big Fat Smile or something like that. It's I just want to do my own thing. Like sometimes I have this dream of just wanting to go and be on, Prince Edward Island where Anne of Green Gables was filmed. I'm like, why can't everyone just have their shop? Their little shop where they just run it themselves. They might have one or two employees. Everyone gets on.
Well, and
I've got this I grew up on a farm. I grew up just outside Berry on a farm. So I've got this real community, know your neighbours sort of thing going on. And yeah, I find it really weird when some businesses open and they just want to smash all the little people who've, been working hard for a long time. And yeah, that upsets me.
But I think it's interesting now because yes, there's some really. It's been like this for a long time where you got the big sort of corporate businesses that come in and really cause a lot of problems for your sort of stereotypical mum and pop shop. But I think now with people understanding or getting an understanding of what the opportunities are, just having an internet connection alone, I think there's more and more people that are taking a very careful and soft approach with understanding how they can make money on the side or creating a little business from the back room of their house or in the shed or something like that. And all those people that have worked the horrible job that they hate and they've done it for years, but on the weekends they do something creative and something that they love, suddenly getting to a point where they're going, oh, I can actually probably make just a little bit of money on the side and do something. And for other people, it's like, well, I could probably actually turn this into something where I can actually do something that I love to do on a full-time basis, make enough money that I can survive and live the lifestyle that I want. And I don't have to dominate, and I don't have to go and have a huge success and be recognized nationally or internationally as a successful business owner. It's just I can live the way that I want and do the things that I love to do. And I think it's far more attainable now than it ever has been before. Yeah, for sure. And yeah, I've got no want for the 4-day work week sort of thing. And I think a lot of people are like, yeah, we'll get it to a point where other people just manage it for us and we'll just work 4 days a week because we're the owners. Just like, no, I like working. I don't know what I'd do because I'm in that luxury where my work is what my hobby would be for a most part. Maybe not cleaning the toilet after the kids have been here, but Pros and cons. Pros and cons. But yeah, getting to paint and paint murals and even screen printing band T-shirts. I love screen printing band T-shirts. It's fun, and then I get to see people walking down the street and go, haha, I printed that T-shirt. You nailed it on the head. When you're doing something that you love to do, yes, it is work because it's creating an income for you, but it's not really work in the traditional sense. And I think, those people that are striving to build something up so they can step back and allow other people to run it for them are usually driven. They're not by money. Yeah, that's right. And the passion's not there for the actual business or the function or whatever it is. It's more about the success of creating a successful business, and that's it. And they'll go off and do something else that they enjoy doing. But for many of us, we just want to be able to just do what we love to do on a day-to-day basis. And if we can make money off it, then that's fantastic. And so then you'll work at any time of the day, you'll work on any day. It doesn't really matter because it's great no matter what you do. So I think people have just got to change the way that they approach everything in general, but especially when it comes to employment, that you can do it. You can do it and do something that you enjoy to do. Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of people are forced into the situation now. People are really finding it hard to find full-time jobs. It's, sort of contract jobs. Definitely a high thing up in Wollongong at the moment. And university staff is fighting for secure jobs, and I've got friends who have been working at the uni for over 10 years and they're still on a 6-month contract, and they've got to start thinking well, if next term we only get 3 days a week, what am I going to do on the other 2 days? And some of them are trying to get more into doing their creative craft and trying to find ways to make money from that, just as that little extra bit of income. It's Yeah, being flexible and being able to deal with the changes that are happening around us, a lot of stuff that's outside of our control. So it's like when something goes wrong, how can we turn it into an opportunity? So for
Yeah.
suddenly if you've got an extra day up your sleeve, then maybe that could be a blessing in disguise, so to speak.
Yeah. That's what happened to me. Like, we went into the boardroom and my whole team was told we were getting made redundant. And yeah, I think I was the only person who was like, oh yeah, okay, this is probably the kick out the door that I needed, because I had a very comfortable job with great benefits and great working conditions, and it was hard to leave. My passion wasn't in it. I was just doing sort of, we called it sausage work, graphic design, where you're really just updating ads and stuff each week. And yeah, there wasn't heaps of creativity, and I'm like, I've got to leave this job. I really got to go and do something else. But it was just comfortable, and yeah, that being made redundant was what started this whole thing, and getting the residency at the gallery, which moved into Anchors Away. And yeah, it's just sort of evolved as it's gone along.
I love it. I think it's exciting, and everyone there. Like, I remember years growing up, and doing lots of different types of jobs and working in sort of the traditional workspaces, and then you see those times of the year where they have the restructure, and then everyone gets walked into an office, and you think, oh, who's staying and who's going? But there was always an element of negativity around it, and fear, and people that put everything into the one basket and rely on their employment to keep them going, and not knowing what to do. And for me, like, I think, and maybe it's just from my own journey and the things that I've done, and also just doing this podcast as well, where you learn and you get to see what other people have been able to do with their own hands. And you think, like, something like a redundancy is the push that a lot of people may need, because they're forced to have to think outside the box. They're forced to have to really heavily consider what do they actually want to do with their life, and a lot of us are just cruising along, and we're just doing a job that's it's good enough, like it's ticking the boxes, and we're content enough as it is, but not 100% content. And so I think a lot of these situations that do arise that are outside of our control actually end up being some of the best things that can happen to us.
Yeah.
Really cool.
Or maybe everyone listening will get made redundant and follow their true path.
Here's the mess. Everyone cross your fingers. Plant the seeds with your boss to get redundant. Yeah. I think it's a really cool story, and there's a lot of things that people can get out of this. And I think there's a lot more people out there that are willing to take a little risk. And sometimes the risk isn't as big as what people think it is. And I think you've taken a really good approach just due to your own circumstances, and taking step by step and gradually just building what you're doing, and to be able to get to a point now where you've got the best of both worlds, and and you're making it work. I think it's fantastic, and that's I think what success is.
Yeah, it's definitely my hot tip is start small, start within your means, especially within your budget. And if you've got no budget, go, well, what can I do with my hands that doesn't require me to buy materials, or whatever it is that you want to do, and just start small and then invest what you make back into your business. So I make very little still, but I keep growing my business at this point. Like, we just got in a bunch of, I always say we, even though it's just me, it's just a habit I have. I just got in like all this new screen printing equipment a little while ago, so I can print more colours on t-shirts. I can speed up the production and stuff like that. But yeah, there's no way I would have been able to afford it a couple of years ago, or 5 years ago when I started. Like, not a chance. But yeah, so I know I can make money out of that, and within the last 6 months, I think, from investing in this equipment, I've pretty much almost paid it off. So
that's great. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Really cool. Well, I think, all my muso mates will probably be, their ears have pricked up, and they go, okay, interesting, screen printing. Let's go and have a look into that.
Yeah.
And even me, I had a quick look through on your page on your website for screen printing. I went, interesting. Okay, cool. And
Yeah,
very, very reasonable pricing as well. And that's always a hard thing,
yeah,
that
for sure.
being in a band, you sort of go,
Bands can even come in and print. Like, I can set everything up for them, and then they can just print the shirts if they want. Bring in like a case of beer, print the shirts. We do album covers. So some of the bands like to come in and print their own album covers and sign them, or maybe get the highlighters out and add a few like highlights just to customize them. I don't know if you've heard of Thomas Hazelmeyer. He does all the Melvins artwork.
Yep.
Over in the States. So he always gets like King Bozo and Dale and stuff to come in and help him print the album covers, and then they'll write like little messages. So each of the collectible Melvins vinyls will have like little notes and stuff in them. They're all different, like the slightly addition variation. And I think that's
cool
so
idea.
Cool.
That is
because
awesome.
while people are going more on Spotify, with the Melvins, people want that record because they're going to get a little note in it. That's going to be collectible. It's like limited to maybe 200 or 300 copies. So yeah, they've found a way to make people want the physical product over the digital. So I think that's great.
Oh, I think we might have to have a different conversation sometime in the near future, because playing in a band myself, I'm always looking for something that's got a little point of difference, something that's a little bit different, and something that attracts the listener and the fan to what you do as a band. So I like that. The cogs are turning. So I'll have to come back to you on that one. But that's really cool. And I'll put all the links in the show notes, and people, when they're listening to this podcast, they can scroll down. They'll have all the links to your website and the social media pages. But Trina, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Andy. And thanks to everyone who's listening.
Thanks, folks. Hope you enjoyed that chat with Trina. And if you want to reach out to Trina and learn more about her artwork and her business, you can go to anchorsawayartstudio.com, or you can go to ponchoarmy.com. There's a bunch of social media links and everything else that we discussed in this episode in the show notes over at selfstarter.com.au, including my key takeaways. Number 1, finding opportunity in your environment. When realising that her residency with the Wollongong City Art Gallery was coming to a close, Trina needed to think quickly about what she was going to do next. Whilst still in residency and having the opportunity to utilise a free studio space, Trina began to run workshops to teach others about art, which then set her up to transition out of that space and move into doing her own thing. So, keeping Trina's story in mind, are you working or living in an interim space at the moment? While it might not be perfect for what you want to do long term, how can you maximize the location that you have now that can then set you up for bigger and better things down the track? Things such as a temporary office, workshops, storage, creative space, the list goes on. There's so many different options that you could consider. Focus on what you can control rather than what you can't control. Number 2, creating income from a personal need or problem. Trina needed to purchase art supplies for her workshop, and at the time, the materials needed were not readily available in the area. Trina was able to set up some wholesale deals with suppliers to address her own problems of obtaining stock, but she also made the decision to sell her supplies in the local area as a retailer. This decision brought an extra revenue stream in for the business and an extra value add for her customers. Number 3, word of mouth can cut through the noise. Advertising and marketing can be a really, really dirty business. We are constantly bombarded with hard sells on a daily basis, and it's such a volume that we often pay little attention to them. Word of mouth, as many of us know, is an effective way of gaining trust through recommendation and grabbing the attention of your target audience by cutting through that noise. This is always a hard thing to kickstart, but as Trina said in our chat, she surrounds herself with extroverts who can go out there and talk about her business in a positive light, which builds trust and loyalty. Last one, number 4, start small. Patience is key. One of the best things about Trina's story is the incremental progress and growth that was made by reinvesting her earnings back into the business. Trina didn't take out any loans and has been playing the long game to keep the overheads low and ensure that she's working within her own lane. While yes, this might not be ideal for everyone depending on the business, there are heaps of us out there who can happily start off small and use time to our advantage by gradually building our business dollar by dollar. And those were my key takeaways from this chat with Trina Collins of Anchors Away Art Studio in Wollongong. As mentioned earlier, you can go to the show notes over at selfstarter.com.au. We can see all those key takeaways, plus additional links and resources there for you to learn more about Trina and all of her work. But that's it, folks. Another episode in the bag. Thank you so much for the ongoing support. Please keep those guest recommendations coming. And until next fortnight, keep taking action, keep stepping forward, and we will speak very, very soon. Ta-ta. Larry.